Apple female engineer drove at high speed, causing the death of the male passenger. She deliberately concealed the fact of his death and fled back to China. A deadly single-car crash happened in Bellevue early morning at around 4:10 a.m. on September 30th. This Porsche 911 reached a speed of 94 miles on a road with a speed limit of 35 miles. After losing control, it crashed into a concrete barrier and flipped over several times in the air, hitting a concrete wall again and landing upside down. There were clear brake marks on the scene. The indictment showed that the male, Liu Yabao, died on the spot, and the female, Ye Ting, was then sent to the hospital. The police suspected that Ye Ting was drunk driving because they could smell a strong smell of alcohol on her. The police said that Ye Ting refused to provide any information about Mr. Liu. No ID or cell phone of the deceased was found at the scene of the accident. The police didn't confirm the identity of the deceased until Mr. Liu's boss called the police on October 4th to report his missing. During this period, Ye Ting kept his death a secret from his friends, claiming that he was safe, even though she knew he was dead. Even after a friend saw the news and confronted her, Ye Ting still said that she hadn't heard about Mr. Liu's death. After the incident, Ye Ting exchanged a large amount of US dollars for RMB, and on October 6th, she left the hospital by taxi on her own. The police said that the hospital didn't notify them that Ye Ting had left. Later, a friend of Ye drove her to Vancouver, Canada, and crossed the border at about 11 a.m. on the 9th. On the morning of the 10th, Ye flew back to China. The U.S. court issued an arrest warrant on October 9th, and before it took effect, Ye Ting had already left. The indictment shows that Ye Ting is accused of vehicular homicide crime, and the bail is $2 million. And the person who drove Ye Ting to Canada, if he knew about it or even provided advice, may face charges of shielding as an accomplice and may be penalized. On October 9th, Mr. Liu's parents received a notification from the embassy and informed his friends in the United States of his death. Only then did Mr. Liu's friends confirm that he had passed away in the car accident. After the car accident, Ye Ting continued to update her Instagram for several days, sharing her life, which once led Mr. Liu's friends to mistakenly believe that she and Mr. Liu were safe. After she returned to China, Mr. Liu's friends asked if she had returned home, and she said that she wanted to tell Mr. Liu's parents the news in person. Mr. Liu, 27 years old, was an engineer at TikTok. Ye Ting, 26, worked in the United States after obtaining a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University. At the time of the incident, she was an engineer at Apple. She bought this white Porsche in early September, and this fatal accident occurred at the end of the month. According to their mutual friends, they were not a couple. On the night of September 30th, Mr. Liu's friend invited him to play poker. At 0:48 on September 30th, Mr. Liu drove his BMW X5 and left his apartment with Ye Ting. Mr. Liu's friend said it was less than half an hour's drive, but they left at a little after midnight, and the accident occurred at 4 o'clock, so no one knows what happened in the middle. On October 23rd, the local court in the United States held an arraignment hearing, but Ye didn't show up. At present, the U.S. court has issued a further arrest warrant for Ye, which means that as long as Ye enters a country with an extradition treaty with the United States, she will face arrest. However, as China and the United States don't have extradition regulations, only a mutual legal assistance agreement in criminal matters, Ye can't be extradited to the United States for trial. Although Ye fled the United States after the traffic accident, she voluntarily placed herself under the direct jurisdiction of the Chinese judicial authorities. In addition, China doesn't have relevant evidence of her accident in the United States. According to a series of procedures and evidence standards in criminal justice, it'll be very difficult to prosecute Ye Ting to the court for trial. This means that the Chinese judicial authorities may not be able to obtain evidence to charge Ye Ting with a traffic accident. According to the Washington State Criminal Code, Ye is suspected of driving a motor vehicle to commit homicide, which may constitute a first-degree felony in Washington state, with a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. The deterrent effect of such a severe punishment may be the reason why Ye fled back to China. The police in charge of this case said, "Our concern now is to ensure that the victims' families get the relief and justice they deserve. We request Miss Ye to return to the United States and cooperate with us." Initiatively, cooperating with the U.S. investigation may be the only way for the U.S. judicial authorities to pursue Ye Ting's criminal responsibility under U.S. law. However, Ye Ting has already gone to great lengths to avoid U.S. legal sanctions and is unlikely to voluntarily return to the U.S. to plead guilty and serve her sentence. I have introduced such cases before, where the criminals fled back to China after committing crimes in foreign countries. Chen Danai fled back to China after killing her husband. In China, she only admitted killing her husband, but denied dismembering his body. She claimed to have hired a man named Jack to dismember the body, but the U.S. police didn't find any information about Jack, and Chen Danli herself could not provide such proof. If she had killed and dismembered her husband, she would be sentenced to death, but because she denied participating in the dismemberment, coupled with the difficulty of obtaining evidence across borders, it was impossible to prove whether she participated in the dismemberment. As a result, she was finally sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve. In prison, she made some contributions with her knowledge, and eventually had her sentence reduced 5 times, serving only 15 years in prison. Chen Danli and Ye Ting have some similarities. They are both highly educated from prestigious universities, and they both absconded back to China after the crime. And they both lied about the death of the deceased to their family and friends. When Chen Danli's parents-in-law asked her about the whereabouts of their son at the police station, she said, "Your son is safe." If you want to know more about Chen Danai's case, this is the video I made before. At present, Mr. Liu's parents have gone to the United States to handle related matters, cooperate with the U.S. police investigation, and handle the funeral arrangements. As of October 31st, the police investigation has made no significant progress. It is currently impossible to determine Ye Ting's location in China or to learn about her current situation. Although Mr. Liu's family has contacted the police and lawyers in China, the public security organ has stated that there is currently a lack of evidence and that the case materials need to be notarized and returned to China before they can be filed. At present, Mr. Liu's family can only cooperate with the investigation in the United States before seeing what will happen next. I'll keep an eye on this case and keep you posted.